So for this segment, we're going to be talking about yet another data breach.
And I'm going to tell you why this one's really important and what we can do about it.
I'm Adam.
I'm Matt.
And this is Random Focus. Another day, another data breach. This time it's Equifax, a credit rating agency that's spilling our data onto the internet. You know, after companies like Yahoo and Target and God knows who else have mishandled our data, I'm kind of blasé about the whole thing. But why, Matt, is this a particularly bad one?
Well, this is not your everyday data breach. Equifax is one of the 3 credit reporting agencies. They're actually who gets checked with when you open a new line of credit. And so when this information is exposed, anyone can really open a new line of credit with that information that they have. 140 million Americans have been exposed. And Equifax's solution to this is to say, okay, great, we'll give you 1 year of free credit monitoring. Unfortunately, this is an issue that's going to go on for decades. So that will do absolutely nothing to keep you protected.
So in kind of a dark timeline as a result of this, we're basically just going to have, tens of fraudulent applications for every single one of us being opened every year. Our identities are going to be stolen constantly, since basically every single piece of information you need is now on the internet, available to whoever has this data. We still don't know who it is. My contention is that this is really kind of an unsustainable system. For one, individuals do not have to kind of bear the entire burden of identity theft. If somebody opens a line of credit in your name, oftentimes you're only responsible for about $50 or $500, depending on when it's reported. So banks are going to have to eat some of this cost. And given that the power they have, especially in DC, I kind of see them lobbying for a better secure identification system that means we're not going to be just relying on social security numbers ad infinitum.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up the banks, which is a great point. I think one of the travesties here is that banks are so heavily regulated compared to the credit agencies. So, really this is something I think that would have been much harder to actually happen in a bank than happen in the credit agency. And one of the things I kind of look to come out of this is some sort of Sarbanes-Oxley type data protection for personally identifiable information. I think given the number of data breaches, as you called out at the beginning, companies should be a lot more protective of this information. It should not be an afterthought, and we should have some regulation for what they have to do to protect that data. And then I think finally is, credit honestly should just be frozen by default. There should be no reason that I shouldn't have to take an action every time I want to open a new line of credit. I know that department stores will be very upset by this, by learning that they can't open a new credit card on the fly to save you $2 off of that t-shirt purchase. But in the end, I think this would be better for consumers and really just better for the system as a whole.
It does seem like the US in particular is kind of lax when it comes to opening credit. And that there are kind of more secure kind of identity authentication systems out there. Like, for example, Estonia in Eastern Europe is kind of lauded for its e-residency program, whereby each resident is given a private key, but when combined with a public key is used to verify that person's identity. There are other alternatives that are kind of being proposed around things like biometric screening. And surely any of these systems would be better than a 1930s era social security system, whereby all you have is a 9-digit number, which isn't even all that random, given some of the digits are based on where it was issued. But I think a lot of the kind of apprehension to these systems in America comes from kind of a historical dislike of federalism here, federal oversight, where people don't necessarily want some kind of evil national ID scheme being used by the government to monitor you at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. As you called out, Social Security number was never meant to be a national identifier. It used to even say on the card, not for ID purposes. It's completely insecure for that reason. And I think the argument that the government doesn't know exactly who you are and what you browsed on the internet this morning and what you're likely to eat later in the day is not already well known. So the idea that, again, you should have this national ID, I think is completely moot at this point.
All right, fair enough. Well, we'll have to see which one of our identities gets stolen first. An exciting race to the bottom on that one. But thank you for watching. This has been Random Talkers, and we'll see you next time.